I graduated from high school back in December. My parents got me a cruise as a gift for my 18th birthday. It was also a family vacation. We usually stay at all-inclusive resorts, but I've always wanted to go on a cruise. I told my parents it was different and that if we went on excursions, we had to follow the schedule no matter what. Well, it was a week-long cruise, and they would not head back to the ship when I said it was time to go. They were busy shopping and bargaining with the locals. I finally told them that I was heading back to the ship. My mom waved me off. They missed the departure by a lot, like 45 minutes. They got a hold of me through WhatsApp. They wanted to know why I didn't get the boat to wait for them. I wanted to scream that they would not inconvenience 3,998 people because two couldn't understand the schedule. They had to fly to the next port from there, which was expensive. They're angry at me for leaving them behind. I don't know what I was supposed to do, even though they literally told me that they knew what they were doing. I wish I'd never asked for this. They're making me miserable because I left without them. Am I the idiot for abandoning my parents on an island in the Caribbean so I could return to our cruise ship on time? Not the idiot. They seriously think the ship will be delayed for 45 minutes? Yeah, no. The docks and ship have a schedule to keep. They're adults and need to be responsible for getting back on time, which you've figured out in less than 6 months of being an adult. At least you don't have to go on any more vacations with them after this. Did OP's parents expect him to kick down the door to the bridge and commandeer the ship until they finished shopping? I expect they're just very embarrassed that an 18-year-old was smarter than them and are taking it out on them. And if OP had given up and stayed behind with them, that would have been an extra plane ticket. So even more money would have been put down the drain. They should be relieved that their kid has a good head on their shoulders. But no, they'd rather blame them. But to be so petty as to keep guilting their daughter over it, essentially ruining her graduation gift, is an immaturity I can't get past. Yeah, what precisely do they think you could have done? Kidnapped the captain? Staged your own drowning? You didn't abandon them. They abandoned you. Don't let them weasel word this around to being your fault in any way, shape, or form. I'm really sorry your parents have ruined this for you. It's pretty pathetic of them to blame you for their extremely easy to avoid and deliberate bad decisions. They owe you at least 2 apologies, one for ignoring your sage advice, and the second for behaving like spoiled 4-year-olds. Yesterday, I got on the bus. There were quite a few people getting in, so it took a bit. I was the second to last. The guy behind me was on his phone. He had moved with the line but was just standing there, looking away from the bus. The bus driver closed the doors. That sound made the guy turn. He was motioning. He clearly wanted in. The driver drove off. This was a bus. What do they expect a cruise to do? You snooze, you lose, unless you own it. My stepdaughter's going through a pretty tough time. The last couple of years have been really rough on her. She's been dealing with bullying at school, being held back a year, not getting along with her mom's new husband, and identity issues. Lots of questioning of her gender. We've been working on getting her a good mental health team of doctors and therapists to help her navigate all of this. Please know we aren't throwing her to the wolves or the internet to deal with it all herself. I've been in her life since she was 7. We've always had a good, though not terribly close relationship. I've not taken on a parental role, but I've always tried to make myself available for her. Until last year, her mom had primary custody, and her dad had weekends with alternating holidays. Last year, due to the issues with her school and mom's house, my stepdaughter requested that custody arrangements be changed. Since she came to live with my husband and me full-time, there's been quite a bit of friction between us. One of the biggest points of contention is my Harry Potter fandom, particularly the bookcase, due to my apparently wrong stance when it comes to issues regarding trans in our country. I grew up in the heyday. So many of my childhood and teen memories are tied to the franchise. My friends and I were all really into it. We attended midnight book releases, dressed up in costume for movie releases, threw HP-themed parties when we wanted to hang out, etc. In many ways, it shaped the course of my entire life. Those same friends and I joined our high school's botany club because of herbology. That unlocked a lifelong passion of mine, and my career is working with plants. Over the years, I've collected quite a bit of memorabilia, many of which are gifts, and they've always been displayed on my most prized possession, a monstrously large custom bookcase my grandfather, a former woodworker, built for me when I was a teenager. I love this thing. The shelves are live-edge black walnut slabs. My grandpa carved beautifully HP-themed imagery all around the casing: owls, cauldrons, shooting stars, lightning bolts, an adorable little rat at the bottom, nibble marks from said rat, etc. It's both sentimental and valuable. The slabs of walnut for the shelves alone would be pushing $1,000, let alone attempting to value the hand-carved craftsmanship. The bookcase has always been proudly displayed in my home. It currently lives in our living room. During one of our family therapy sessions, my stepdaughter expressed that seeing my HP shelf made her feel really uncomfortable because of the author, and that she was really disappointed in her father and me for being so supportive of a bigot. I apologized for making her feel uncomfortable in her own home and said that I would take down the HP stuff. So I packed up all the HP-themed merch off the shelves and made sure I didn't have the books or anything on display that said Harry Potter anywhere. I bought some LED grow lights and converted the bookcase into a plant shelf to display succulents. I bought some witchy but not overtly Harry Potter-themed pots for the little guys so they'd go with the shelf. This was not an acceptable compromise for my stepdaughter and has remained a point of contention. With my stepdaughter hurling, I and we, referring to my husband, broke a promise to get rid of the Harry Potter stuff. I tried to explain to my stepdaughter that, while I disagree with J.K. Rowling's stance, the media has a special place in my heart because of my childhood association with it, and that the shelf was very important to me because it was a gift from my grandpa. Still, she maintains that none of that should matter. At first, my husband supported me in my desire to keep my bookcase, but lately, the arguments have weighed on him, and he asked me if I would reconsider keeping it in the living room, suggesting we rent a storage unit to house it in. After the most recent blow-up about it, I kinda lost my temper. I didn't yell, but I firmly told my stepdaughter that this was my house and my bookshelf stayed. If it's such a big problem for her, she can always return to live with her mother, full-time. I knew it was a low blow as soon as I said it. I quickly apologized, but it was out there. My stepdaughter's been on an emotional downward spiral. My husband and I have been arguing almost nonstop. I think it's mostly stress because he's at his wit's end about how to help his daughter, but he's becoming pretty mean and nasty towards me. He's telling me to grow up and just get rid of the stupid bookcase. I know I was an idiot for saying my stepdaughter could always go back and live with her mom, but am I really being unreasonable for wanting to keep my beloved bookcase? You are not the idiot here. Your husband is. He's not parenting his daughter through a difficult time and expecting you to make your life smaller to compensate. Telling you to get rid of something your grandfather lovingly created for you because his daughter's having a teenage strop about it? F no. Is there room in your bedroom for the bookcase? Or in OP's new place? If my books and bookshelves aren't welcome, it's not a home for me. And none of my bookshelves were lovingly hand-carved by a now deceased relative. Teenagers are prone to being extreme and overreacting. She will eventually grow up and realize how ridiculous and unfair she's being. Not to sound like a boomer, but this has to be some sort of generational thing, right? When we were kids, if one of my friends or I demanded that our parents remove a piece of furniture from their homes, they would laugh in our faces. Honestly, acceding to stupid demands will not help the daughter at all. Being pansy idiots with her is probably half the reason she's as messed up as she is. Kids need you, first of all, as their parent, not as their besties, and certainly not their darn butler or servant. OP, your stepdaughter sounds a little entitled. You compromised. You tried. Your stepdaughter should appreciate that and try harder to meet you halfway. I'm concerned you'll come home and find it destroyed or gone. This situation is unacceptable. You haven't done anything wrong. Update. Am I the idiot for telling my stepdaughter she's welcome to go live with her mother full-time? My husband and I spoke about the situation. He apologized for being snappish with me and agreed that my stepdaughter was being unreasonable about the bookcase. He ultimately agreed to back me about it. He and I are just as tight as we have ever been. Again, I apologized to my stepdaughter for the remark I made out of frustration about her moving back with her mom. I reiterated that our home is her home too, and she's always welcome here. Even though families sometimes fight and disagree, we are a family. However, the general argument about Harry Potter and my bookcase escalated for a couple of weeks. Then the discontent about that started to bleed over into complaints about me. She began to be more disrespectful and sarcastic. During all of this, we were still attending our family therapy sessions. Our therapist was pretty certain that the misbehavior was anxiety related and didn't suggest that we give in to the demands to have the bookcase removed and wanted to just keep working on the things we've all been doing. Well, my stepdaughter's disrespectful attitude hit a climax. She called me the C word and some other choice things within my husband's earshot. My husband honestly kind of lost it on her. I don't think I've ever seen him that angry before. He was bright red and vein-popping angry as he marched her to her room and declared, "You will not speak to my wife in such a way." This was probably the first time my stepdaughter has ever seen her dad angry, let alone anger directed at her. It left her pretty shaken, like that was her rock bottom. We ended up needing to do a couple emergency sessions with her counselor because there was concern about her relapsing with some self-destructive issues she's been working on. But that incident led us to having a breakdown. Her counselor invited my husband and me into one of her sessions, and she had a bit of a breakdown. Basically, she was dealing with a lot of existential dread. That ended up being an excellent opening for us to bond. This is going to sound silly, but I was able to pull up my social media timelines back from 2016, and I showed her some of the things I had written or had shared with me back then. She was able to see that I shared a lot of the same fears that she has. So we've all had some really big talks about things like feeling helpless when things are out of your control, about disengaging from the media machine for your own mental health, etc. Things have been on the upswing since then. Before she left her mom's place this past weekend, she even gave me a Mother's Day gift, an adorable little planter that says, "Caution, mandrakes." I love it. I put one of my favorite props in it, and it's front and center of the bookcase now. She called me the C word. Being called a conservative by a family member just hurts. But seriously, glad to see things are getting better. No one gave up on her. No one gave in to her. No one let her get away with the crap. Well done, Dad, and well done, stepmom. Love a good update that's actually a good update. Yes, yes, yes. I love it when communication actually comes to the rescue. Although I hate that sometimes it has to be about our common plague of existential dread. I'm horrified to tell you that, but seeing that genuinely having control and not letting a teenager walk all over you had an effect makes me think that self-discipline is something you teach your kids. Great job, everyone. My pre-tween son had a class trip yesterday. He was very excited in the days leading up to the trip, mainly because of a specific attraction he hoped to see. Unfortunately, the attraction is closed for renovations for the next couple of months, so he didn't see it. Though there were other things he liked and enjoyed, he was still super disappointed. When he got home, I asked him how the trip was, and he told me how disappointed he was that the thing he most looked forward to wasn't available. I felt sorry for him. That sucks. And it was a nice day, and we lived 3 blocks from a 7-Eleven. So I offered to take him for a Slurpee, and he agreed. While it didn't make up for everything, it made his day a little better, and I was happy I could do that with such a simple little gesture. Well, my husband thinks I was wrong, because kids need to learn how to manage disappointment, and I didn't give him that chance. I would agree if, say, I had taken him to Target and bought $100 worth of toys, or say, called the place and reamed them out for being disappointing. But it's just a Slurpee. It cost a little over $1 and is close to home, so not some big production. It is in no way proportional to the disappointment. It was just a small thing to improve his day a little. My husband argues that in the real world, you just have to suck it up when disappointed. But I said that's not entirely true. Adults in the real world absolutely treat themselves to minor things when they have a rough day. It wouldn't be an excuse to run up the credit card, but it's not crazy or unusual to get oneself a Slurpee or a chocolate bar on a tough day. Anyway, just wondering who's right here. Am I the idiot? Did I mishandle the situation by getting my son a small treat because he was disappointed? Let me get this straight. Son was sad. Son came to terms with it, and Mom made it a better day. He's upset you made your son happy? Not the idiot. You don't need to justify your darn Slurpee. Husband must have had a bummer of a childhood. Please remind your husband that preparing your child for the real world does not mean giving them a terrible childhood. Next time Dad has a bad day, no beer for you, no favorite TV show, no chocolate. The real world is calling. Handle your disappointment without alcohol or chocolate. It was a learning experience. Your son learned that you care about his feelings, that he can talk to you, and that maybe little things can help him handle disappointment. I wish I had a mom like you, OP. My mom was not a bad mom, but it's only just now in my early 30s that I'm learning that, oh well, I guess that sucks, isn't the be-all, end-all response to disappointment, that I can find little ways to make myself happy. As long as a reward like this isn't given for every little letdown, you're doing a good job of teaching that you can make yourself happy, that happiness and validation don't need to come from an outside source. My wife and I had 2 dogs. Unfortunately, they both passed away last year. They were medium-sized dogs and not so active anymore. While I was sad to see them go, I was ready for a life without dogs. My wife, on the other hand, wanted a dog. We found a small dog that fit our current lifestyle. She's small and needs minimal exercise. Our daily walks and games are plenty. She's a beautiful dog, even though she has these weird crests of fur that stick out 1.5 inches on both sides of her neck. She looks like she borrowed a pit bull's neck. I like to joke with my wife that I'll trim the fur so we'll have a normal-looking dog. She keeps telling me to leave her dog alone. Yesterday, my wife was out, and I was home alone with the puppy. She got into the garden while I was working and rolled around in the manure. She needed a bath. Before bathing her, I took some gel and brushed the fur back to look like a normal neck. Then I sent my wife a picture and said, that was much better. There were threats made. She came home angry to find a happy and clean puppy with all her fur. Now my wife is mad because she thought I actually cut the fur. I don't think it's so egregious that she should be upset. You are the idiot, but less than I expected because you didn't cut the dog's fur. I also would not find it funny. Pretending to do something your partner has told you she doesn't want, intentionally upsetting her, isn't really funny. There's no punchline, and there's nothing clever. It's just causing a negative emotional reaction on purpose, and then going, just kidding. Like, what's the funny part? That she's upset? That you pretended to be disrespectful but were slightly less so? Why is it amusing to you to cause your partner discomfort, even temporarily? I completely agree. I hate jokes like this. It's not clever or new. It's just annoying. My dad used to do that kind of idiot thing to me as a joke, constantly, and it drove me darn crazy. There are many more serious reasons we have a strained and distant relationship now, but that kind of thing really established that he didn't value me or my feelings over his own cheap laughs. Ugh, if OP was the only one laughing, then it wasn't a joke. It was an idiot move intended to upset OP's wife. He absolutely knew she wouldn't find it funny in the least. Dude, if making someone upset is funny to you, there's something really wrong with your empathy. And no, they don't get less upset when they do eventually find out it was a joke. They probably get more upset because now they're upset. Plus, they've been made a fool of. This is a pretty melodramatic comment section. He gave the dog a bath and styled its hair. OMG, the shame and shock and horror. Divorce ASAP. Maybe it wasn't a good idea to tease his wife, but she got so angry, she's making threats and name-calling. And that's okay? Now 2 perceived wrongs make a right? It's okay for her to tantrum like a tired toddler because he made a silly joke? OP, you are not the idiot. It was a harmless joke. You found it funny. She did not. Apologize and move on.